Well, we say happy Friday to you guys. This is Brandon Mollet on another FDN Fantastic Friday call. It's April 7th, 2017. Hope everybody's doing awesome out there. Love getting together with you guys on Fridays. We have several different formats on this show. Sometimes it's an awesome interview with a practitioner or an interview with a special guest or an Ask Read or Ask the Mentors or various different formats just for you guys. That's the main point I want to make. All these are categorized and help for you guys for support, for encouragement, for information, for understanding, every one of you guys. So we're happy to have you on with us. Hopefully you are listening live. If you're not, then you're listening to the replay, and that's awesome too. The Fantastic Friday calls are archived all the way back to 2008, so lots of good information there. It's a whole education in itself. I encourage you guys to jump on there and listen to those calls. I think especially the practitioner spotlights, I think they're some of the most fun to do because it's FDN practitioners just like you guys are either about to graduate or have graduated, and they're out there doing the work, and they're being with people. I probably shouldn't even use the word work. It's just a lot of fun. They're out there having fun with people, doing their business, and we have them come on there to tell you their story, to inspire you hopefully, and also lay down some really practical things that you can do, lessons they've learned, tips in business or case management or client management, various things. So I'm sure this week will be no exception. So, all right. Well, we've got about less than an hour, so I think it would be good enough time to talk with Kathleen. I know she's got a lot to talk to us about here today. I'm happy she's on. Practitioner Spotlight today, guys, and the guest today is Kathleen DiChiara. You guys have probably seen her out there. Her story is amazing, but she didn't just stop at getting her body healthy and living a life that way. She wanted to tell people about it, so she's out there talking about this on every available voice, from her thriving practice to books to speaking engagements to even a movie, and we'll talk about that here in a second with her. So she's out there doing awesome work. She's from Rhode Island. She's an FDN practitioner amongst a lot of other things that she's done, but she's just out there, again, just helping people in an amazing way. So Kathleen, we say hello to you today.
Great to be on, Brandon. Hello, everybody.
Yes, so good deal. We talked, I think you and I talked last year a little bit. I had a great conversation with you and thought you'd be a great person to come on and talk about everything you've been doing. So maybe, if you can, maybe start from the beginning there. Talk a little bit about your journey because it was pretty amazing. I think it involves your family a little bit too, but maybe tell us about a little bit about you there.
Sure. So I'll give everyone the abbreviated version because it's a complicated story, but just for the sake of time today, my background was in corporate America. I was doing investor relations for capital markets, working with, for a publicly traded company, a Fortune 500. It was a commercial real estate company, so building huge high-rises in all the major cities of New York and Boston, California, Washington, and I handled all the investor relations. I was a recreational triathlete. My husband was an all-natural bodybuilder, so we were what we would consider healthy people. We were very health conscious, a lot of focus on fitness, and we ate, what we perceived to be a healthy diet at the time, although there was a lot of fat-free and whole wheat and whole grain and cottage cheese and things like that was sort of promoted in the fitness world, and so we used those things post-race. So, we would carb load and then compete or do a race, and so we had a lot of misinformation, but the point is that we were conscientious of our health, and I developed what was considered a sudden onset neuropathy in my leg. I was, again, working full-time 12-hour days, commuting an hour and a half each way into the city of Boston, and we had just bought a new house, and so we were carrying 2 mortgages. It was definitely stress with special needs. He had autism. He was 3.5, and I had a toddler. And I developed a neurological pain in my leg, and I did what most people do. I try to take Advil and, kind of remedy it myself. And then ultimately it progressed very quickly to the point where I couldn't even walk on the legs, so I started doing physical therapy. And I actually never returned to work. So from that initial onset to within 3 days of it really progressing to the point where I couldn't even stand, ultimately ended up getting back surgery about 6 months after the original injury. And when I woke up, I couldn't walk. So I had postoperative paralysis that was unexplained. They did CAT scans and MRIs to see if the nerves had been severed, which they hadn't. And from there, I was transported home into a guest bedroom where I stayed and had nurses and physical therapists come in and work on me there. And it was the beginning of my health journey that ultimately led me to the field that I'm in now. And I know that many people share the same kind of experience, maybe not that dramatic, but something has happened. They reached some type of a medical crisis. So that was sort of the original assault for me. And then from there, I developed autoimmune, allergies to everything, fibromyalgia, chronic pain syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome. They said I was in early stages of MS because I had started to lose my eyesight, and I was put on very high doses of morphine. I had a back brace and a walker, and, I was doing physical therapy and occupational therapy and acupuncture and chiropractic. I was doing everything to manage it, and then a lot of pain medication drugs. So, it was a really low point, and the only reason I am where I am today is because I knew that I would die, from the damage of the pain medication. I mean, it was just inevitable that years and years of taking those kinds of drugs would eventually damage my liver and my body. So I intuitively knew that, but I couldn't get any information that would get me out of that predicament. I mean, the conventional system was sort of out of options. It was either pharmaceutical drugs or more surgery. And I had already proved that I wasn't a good candidate for surgery. So, there were people that didn't want to even touch me, as far as medical professionals, because they just thought, well, this probably isn't going to go well. And so, we talked about putting steel rods into my back and other things. But ultimately, it was left to me. And so I started studying really out of desperation, just to see what it is that I could do for myself. And I was really drawn to looking at chronic disease and why does the body break down. And it seemed so ridiculous that I wouldn't have made the connection that potentially there was something I could do in my very own kitchen. But I really was that disconnected to it. I think I just was like most people, and I think I perceived that disease or degeneration happens to you. And it's sort of an inevitable part of the aging process, or it was just that freak injury, or, I don't know what the mindset was, but I see it, of course, every day now. I can see that other people are having it, but at the time, it was not clear to me that there were things within my control. So once I started to dig into the literature and sort of look at books, look online, start to pull up studies, look at research, and without that, I was really shocked. I was shocked at how much literature there actually was and how many things I could do. And so that was, I'll stop there, but that was the opening of the can, so to speak. And then from there, it was just peeling back the layers of the onion. I haven't looked back since. So the place that I am today, because I got bit by the bug, of really pursuing solutions on my own. And when I was getting results, I just kept going. So that was, the beginning of it for me, and kind of led up to that point.
That's so admirable. You could just quit. Could just lay down and die, but you didn't do that. I'm just amazed. You're describing all this, and it's a little movie going on in my head, just seeing you in the bed and physical therapy and all of that. Yeah. Could have quit, but you didn't. Yeah,
I know. And, somebody asked me, I work with a lot of medical doctors, and we do a lot of collaborations and case studies together. And I remember I was at a dinner event, and one of the medical doctors I was sitting with, and she works clinically in some of the biggest hospitals, and she said, what differentiates people from the ones that do that and then the ones that give in? Like she said, I can't figure out why is it that some people get better and other people don't, and what do you think that is? And for me, it was a very strong feeling, an internal feeling. I mean, I can remember where I was sitting. I remember what I said to my husband when that urge, we could call it intuition, sort of came over me, that I was this was not meant to be, or that, I was supposed to do something different. And I don't know if that, I'm not suggesting that everyone would have that moment, but I do think it's something bigger than us. I don't think it's a decision. I don't think I just sort of decided I'm not going to give in, because I think my nature is to be a fighter. I think I am sort of an entrepreneur at heart. I'm a go-getter. I'm self-motivated. I don't really need people to tell me things. I will say that part of the conventional care system was very disabling. In other words, a lot of the feedback I would get when I would go see a quote-unquote specialist or somebody that I thought was going to help me was really, the experiences were very demeaning. I was not put in a position of taking control of my own health. It was sort of like, well, this is what's happening. These are your options. And I remember almost always leaving those appointments and crying and feeling broken and feeling like I couldn't do anything about it. But I also didn't take me long after I got to the upset of those experiences to say, that's ridiculous. Like this, why would somebody make me feel that way when I should be able to do something for myself? So part of it too is maybe that some of us have that personality of, if you tell me I can't do something, then you better look out while I go get it done, because, we just have that sense of that it's not up to you to decide my outcome. So maybe there is a little bit of that in me, that not wanting to be defeated.
A bit of a rebel there.
Yeah, right.
That's a good thing. Channel it in a really good way. So.
Yeah. Well,
let me know if I'm getting ahead of you here, but I know, how does the family start to factor in with your children, your husband? I know you guys went through some tough stuff there with some issues there, but also made a lot of changes there, which is the basis behind I think your story and the new movie coming out. Tell us a little bit about that, if that's not getting too far ahead.
Yeah, no, it's great actually. It's a really good segue because I was sick, because I was so deep into it and I was trying to help myself. And then when I started to apply changes, I was seeing results. The reason why our family got involved is we have 3 boys, just so the listeners know. I have a 13-year-old boy, an 11-year-old boy, and a 6-year-old boy. So part of the dysfunction or the disability that I was experiencing, so I was put on permanent disability for life without the intention of getting well. So, it was just sort of like, this is the situation you're going to be in. Here's your Social Security check till the age 65, and, good luck. So part of that was I was told, that I couldn't have any more children, or that I shouldn't have any more children, that it was unpredictable. And we had planned on having more children, so we just had the 2 boys. So ultimately, I got pregnant somewhere in that time frame between when he was born and when I was disabled. And it was, one of those things that, okay, now I'm pregnant, and we don't know how I'm going to do, if I'm going to need to be bedridden. So I was making progress and getting better, but we didn't know how my body would handle, especially in light of all the immune issues I was having, the pregnancy. So I ended up having my 3rd son, and we expected he'd be pretty healthy, because now I was more knowledgeable. I did a natural childbirth. I didn't do an epidural. There were a lot of decisions that I made during that pregnancy and for the childbirth that I thought would be in his best interest. But, of course, that would not be the way it played out. He ended up having chronic eczema and lots of skin issues and immune issues, and had a very strange body odor at 6 months old that seemed hormonal. So there were all these things kind of going on, and I thought, here we go again, like, I'm sick, and my oldest has autism, and, now he's got all these skin issues, and what is it that we're doing wrong? Like, I just couldn't figure out, even though we were making dietary changes at that point. We were sort of experimenting with taking gluten out and dairy, and we had already removed, processed sugars and dyes and things like that. So we were, cooking most of our food. And he was the one that really put me over the top. Like, he forced me to really, really start looking at this in a much more serious way. So I just got even more determined. And then I started looking at the immune system and, met with an immunologist, and he was useless. And so I was like, okay, now I actually have to study the immune system. Started really looking at, the functional aspects of it. At this point now I was studying at FDN and in starting to connect the dots about this diagnostic component of it and the deeper issues that are sort of rooted in the fact that, when the body has these symptoms, there's something bigger at play. And so it was him that really helped us to kind of fine-tune that. And that's when I sort of made this entire connection, and I said, there's definitely something happening here. There's viral issues at play. There's food allergies and intolerances. There's hormone imbalances in me. There's all of that. And I just dug as deep as I could into it. And, it's a complex thing for me to review in a quick, because it happens over a long period of time. But the short answer is that we were definitely having reactions to very, very small amounts of genetically modified canola oil that was in some of the gluten-free products we were eating. And that was at the root of his chronic eczema, which he'd had, we were told he needed steroids for, and he needed medication for, which we were able to clear up in 2 weeks and never have it return. And removing the genetically modified foods and glyphosate really allowed us to get to those healing opportunities that Reed talks about, because it was sort of like this little nagging thing. It was in small amounts, and it was weaved in and out. It was sort of hidden in our own, quote unquote healthy foods, but it was enough to just antagonize the immune system so that I really wasn't getting better. I wasn't getting well enough. I was still managing things, taking tons of supplements. And so we really pulled that out and got very specific, and then started bringing in a lot of antiviral foods. I started studying herbs. I started studying plants. I said, what are the disease patterns in nature? I started looking at nature and looking for disease patterns that show up in biology and in the soil. And then I started translating that to human health issues. And I just was had this insatiable curiosity for what happens when the human body is having that dysfunction. And then I did, diagnostic labs and ran hormone panels on myself, and just started asking myself those really tough questions of, am I looking at the right places, and are the things that we're experiencing still right here in front of us? It's not that we're lacking that one supplement, that one nutrient. We're not, it's something more simple yet profound. And so for us, we really turned to the food. That was the number one focus, mostly because my son was nonverbal, so I was afraid to experiment with him using supplemental protocols and things where I couldn't get a lot of feedback, but I knew the food wouldn't harm him. So I knew that was safe, or at least that's what felt safe to me. And then I also had a belief that the food was powerful. I said, there's a reason why it was here for us, long before supplements and tinctures and all these, specialized remedies and therapies were ever available. So certainly there's something to it, and Mother Nature's wisdom has so much to teach us. So I was really drawn to that. And so I just really went back to the basics, changed our diet to motivate myself, through the eczema, but then also with Stephen's autism and my own health. And he had remarkable transformations. And along the way, little things came up. My husband had developed a breast tumor called gynecomastia, which is an enlarged breast tissue on one side. We ruled out breast cancer. We came back. The surgeon said, nope, just has to be surgically removed. There's nothing you can do about it. That's not true. I asked my husband for 2 months. I said, I can get rid of it probably in 2 months if I make some changes in your diet. We did that. 2 months later, it was completely gone. So we knew that we were in charge. We were, at every turn, we kept saying, yep, nope, this is something else that we have control over. And we just got stronger and stronger collectively as a unit. And we just stayed that and continued to go on. And I think that, because we kept getting those confirmations, the breast tumor, the skin, the eczema, the mood in my middle child, dramatic changes in Stephen and his mitochondrial function and his gastrointestinal symptoms resolved. He started speaking. He started losing his speech disorder. He had apraxia and sensory processing disorder. Those things started to melt away. And again, this is over a long period of time, but we kept seeing the change and no regression. So we just kept going. And then ultimately he was undiagnosed with autism at age 10, medically. We had him tested, and so that we did the film. The film was really a documentation it's a documentary film that focuses on the impact of genetically modified foods, but certainly it covers 5 individuals, the 5 of us in one family. We had 21 chronic disease collectively, and we undid them all, right in our own home, using food as medicine and using that functional nutrition approach. So and we had the documentation to support it, the MRIs, the CAT scans, the breast mammographies. My son's autism diagnosis, his medical file is like 4 feet tall. So, and then we have the other side of that coming out the other end. So it's really a true reflection of, people being on a journey. Even though we weren't documenting it while we were going through it, we had all the history. So it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Wow, what a story! That's amazing. I'm looking forward to the movie coming out there. So it's called Secret Ingredients. I'll go ahead and say the name. It's called Secret Ingredients. So if you've got, I think you've gotten an email from Kathleen. I think you got the trailer down there, and that was just inspiring. Just that little bit there. So I encourage you guys to check it out when it comes out. So you paired up with Jeffrey Smith. He's you guys should know him pretty well there from GMO fame. Mostly is what I think about him when I hear that name. And then
That's
Amy
right.
Hart, I wasn't familiar with her, but seems like a really awesome team to work with, put that together.
Yeah, she's an amazing producer. She's an award-winning documentary producer and does a lot of work with NIH and health organizations, and does some programs, water programs, and filming for nonprofits and agencies that are supporting other big causes in other parts of the world, in Africa. So, both of them together, the brilliant minds. It's really, really great. Yeah.
And something else that you highlighted also is that, we talk about our DRESS protocol with diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. We got to keep that balanced, which is, people tend to think, well, supplements, and then if they're not getting better, I've got to figure out what I've got to change in the supplement protocol. What it's about.
Right.
It's always, there's part of it that can help, but with you, it was food, and it was very a lot of attention to detail on the food. It wasn't just let's eat whole food, let's eat perfect food, or as close as we can get, because we can't do the GMOs, we can't do the pesticides. That's what's killing us.
Right. Exactly. And I think it's a really good point, Brandon, because I think there's a huge movement of we should be GMO-free, we should be dairy-free, gluten-free, soy-free, sugar-free. I'm on a special diet, a Candida diet, an SCD diet, this diet. And these are all very helpful, and they're great strategies for people to figure out how their body is responding to certain foods. But really, I think what's missing, and certainly what I use in my own practice, is the true nature of food as medicine, which is what is the pathology of what's happening in the body? Why is the body not healing or breaking down, and where is the dysfunction? And then what are the nutrients that would bring that back into restoration? In other words, are there certain compounds in foods, or tannins, or phytonutrients, or antioxidants, or are there certain things that have antiviral or antimicrobial components that can come in? Or rather than using a digestive enzyme, are we using foods that are rich in enzymes to sort of support natural digestion? And I think we have this tendency to offer people solutions, which is well-intended and can and should be done in many instances. But what happens is that people get to that point, like you said, where they think it's just another nutrient or another supplement or another test that is keeping them from getting well. And I find more often than not that's actually the opposite. There are people that come to me in my practice that have been to some of the best practitioners, some of what we would consider the world famous, the ones that we've looked up to that have been doing this a very, very long time. And they have said, I've had Hashimoto's and I've had it for 8 years, and these are the 15 supplements I take, and I'm still not well. And I think that's a real problem, because I think what's happening is people are managing chronic disease with supplemental protocols. They're not really effective, or the practitioner has done the best they can, or maybe got them to a point where they're stable, but they're really not well. They have elevated antibodies off the chart. They still have fatigue. They still have hormone imbalance. They're still very symptomatic. And what I have to say to people is, if you don't feel like you're getting well, then what you're doing isn't working. And it's time to reevaluate that and simplify that. Make a list of the supplements that you're taking and put a column next to that on the piece of paper and with the word effective or not. Like, is it actually working? Most people don't even know if the supplements they're taking have any effect on their body. They don't even know, sometimes they don't even remember why they were prescribed the supplement in the first place. So, that check-in and really asking people the tough questions, which is, well, what's the reason you're taking it and is it working? And I think what FDN really focuses on is not only putting people on an initial protocol or supplementation to support them where they're at, but then checking in and making sure that, are you getting results? Are you moving in the direction in which we're headed? And if not, do we need to do some other diagnostic pieces? Do we need to reevaluate what you're doing? Do we need to simplify it? And really staying in the game and partnering with the person that is on the other end of that healing journey to say, you need to be getting well and it needs to be measurable. It's not just about me telling you that you're deficient in vitamin D, and so I'm going to give you a vitamin D tincture and we're going to call it a day. Because the reality is, what people think is, well, I'm taking a vitamin D supplement, so it's not that big of a deal that I'm going to sit at my desk for 9 hours and not see sunlight. And I have a real problem with that, because it really isn't the answer to just supplement with the vitamin D. It's really about taking breaks and getting up and going outside and making sure that your lifestyle is matching what the deficiency is. So if there's a deficiency in the body, the answer isn't necessarily a supplement to correct that. In some instances it is, but in many instances it's not.
Restore that function. You might have some intensity where some corrective care where things we're trying to get accomplished, but ultimately, it's not to be on 20 different supplements and just live whatever life we want to. It's changes. And
or to be on them and not getting any results.
Oh, that too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So, well, let's maybe talk about, if we can, a little bit about your practice. I know you see a whole lot of people with a lot of different situations there. So, what do you see mostly? What kind of people come through your door and reach out to you?
Yeah. So mostly a lot of women, mothers who usually have children with health issues. Sometimes they come for the children and then ultimately end up working with me themselves. I do a lot of families, so working with each member of the family individually, which are the people that get the best results, because then the whole dynamic in the home changes, and that it serves as a catalyst for healing for everybody. And but mostly women, and I might start with the child and end up with the woman, or the other way around. But I would say that the conditions are pretty consistent, immune issues, autoimmune, thyroid, allergies, chronic eczema, digestive issues, hormone imbalances, adrenal fatigue, the eczema, autism, skin-related issues, you name it. It's sort of, I see them really as all the same problem, just manifesting in different ways in different people. And it's all referral-based. I don't do there's no way to book an appointment with me on my website or any way to find, you'd have to know somebody to get access to my calendar to get on there. I had to kind of shut down all the ways for people to book an appointment because I couldn't keep up. And it was just not practical for me to have people waiting, months to get a single appointment. So now it's really just by referral. And they come. They come because, people get results, and so they tell other people. And I think that's, ultimately the best type of business, because when people come to me, they know, it's time to get to work. I don't really dance around the issue. We really dig in. It's very personalized. I don't have any protocols or plans, so every single recommendation I make is specific to the individual. So it is very personalized in that respect, and I think that that's why I get the results. And so, my practice is primarily with a heavy focus on the nutrition piece, but using really the principles of FDN, looking at the DRESS protocol, but also using diagnostic tools, running the lab tests and looking for data, looking for healing opportunities, and then guiding people to make nutritional changes that support that. And so even if we do supplementation, it's short term, it's 2 to 3 weeks. We remeasure it, we relook at things, we evaluate what there are. If something is not working, we move very quickly. We don't sort of say, okay, let's stay this path for 6 months and see how you do. I mean, we know that the body is a quick responder, and it can give us a lot of feedback. And so we know if somebody is generally heading in the right direction. And people are having very complex issues. There's no like somebody comes with a skin rash. I mean, it's like layers of issues, right? Fatigue for 40 years, chronic reoccurrence of herpes virus, a new shingles virus that keeps showing up. It's, excess stress, body weight, hormone imbalances, constipation for 15 years. Now they've got this raging histamine reaction, which is a rash, which they got after they got, 2 rounds of antibiotics for a double ear infection and a strep throat. I mean, it's like by the time you're really looking at these individual clients, it's such complexity, and to take people through that healing opportunity is really personalized. I mean, it has to be, which I think is really hard work, but I think that's where we need to go.
So that's even with the length of time too, it's personalized. It sounds like to me, I'm guessing, I don't know, but so it's not like you have here's a 3-month program. It's going to maybe take as long as it takes, or do you have some boundaries?
Yeah, it's going to take as long as it takes is right. Yeah, so I used to do the program. So for the practitioners that want some kind of start envisioning their own businesses and how they're setting it up. Initially, I did where somebody could, buy a program, so to speak, a program, but really what we were talking about is a length of time. So either 3 months. I never went past 3 months. I didn't think that it was fair to have people making a long-term commitment without really reassessing whether or not it was working for them. So I'm very big on outcomes, and if people want to continue to work with me long-term, it's because I'm delivering. I'm really giving them the results that they deserve, or they're getting the results they deserve by implementing the recommendations that I'm making. So I never went past 3 months, but I would do an initial consult, and then from there we would, talk every other week. I've since evolved from that. I think that because so much of my desire is to educate people so that people are not dependent on me. In other words, without me, they're not well. I feel my specialty is to educate them, to give them really, really good information, and to teach them how to look for the healing. What does it look like? What does it feel like? And then what happens when I go off course? And then how do I get myself back on? So really, really giving them good information. So if I make a recommendation, I tell them exactly why I'm doing that. I might give them studies to read. I might give them a background and explanation, what the methodology of my thinking is, why I think it's a perfect thing for them to do, and then what we're going to do and what are the things that we want to be looking for. How do we want to know if something is effective? So I do my initial consultation, which is me taking their intake information, assessing where they're at, reviewing it before we even talk. Then I do a 60 to 90-minute consultation where I ask more questions, dig in deeper, really connect all the dots. And then I spend an hour after I've talked with them, sometimes longer, depending on how complex it is, and I write a very, very detailed, sometimes 9-page report on everything that's going on, what they've identified as their main goals, what they'd like to accomplish, what changes we're going to make, why, and then, what are some of the reasons why they might be having those experiences, and then the recommendations, whether it's supplementation or lifestyle changes or diets, what specific foods they want to incorporate. And then I send that report to them with links to all of the supplements and recommendations, and then they can schedule a follow-up about 3 weeks later. So I now price it collectively for the review, the consultation that they have for 60 to 90 minutes, plus the report. I used to not get paid for the report. In other words, I would do the consultation, and then I would write the report, and I'd be so bogged down with the writing of the report, which I really wanted to do, and I didn't want to give up, but it was time-consuming, and I really wasn't being paid for that time. And I thought about, do I just not do that anymore and just do the consultation, and then I'm not going to be feeling bitter that I'm spending all this time, but then I'm really not being paid for my effort. And I thought, no, I really don't want to do that. So I want to be compensated. I want to be paid for the time, but I also want to give them that report. It's so valuable. So now collectively, and do you want me to give specifics? Because I can give specific dollar amounts if people want to hear it.
Yeah, if you're willing to.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah, so I do. So my consultations are $450. That's $450. The person has to book the appointment. They schedule the appointments through my software, which I use Intake Q. It's called Intake with the letter Q at the end.com. That does all of my scheduling. It processes the payment. They pick the service that they need, and they enter their credit card. That's how they reserve it. They pay, even though they're putting their credit card in to reserve the consultation, they only get charged on the day of the appointment. So I don't have, people aren't paying in advance for the service. They're paying on the same day, but the system does everything for me. It sends them the correct intake form. So if it's a female who's doing a consultation, she clicks that she wants an initial consultation in the drop-down menu. She chooses female intake form. Everything is electronic. It's all online. It's all HIPAA compliant. She gets the form. She fills it out. She can attach an image of herself. I usually ask for an image of their face so I can look for things like, dark circles under the eyes or bulging eyes or half an eyebrow missing and some of those diagnostic things that just give us good clues. But also they can upload any existing lab tests that they already have. You can have a consent form. You can have any type of FDN paperwork there that you want them to agree to or acknowledge. They can have a little checkbox saying they agree to certain terms, and then all of that is submitted electronically. And then on the day of that appointment, it shows up in my calendar. I have the dial-in number right there. I make the call. The system's already charged the person. So I'm not really getting caught up in the administrative piece of it anymore. Once somebody's established, they've had that initial consultation, they can book a follow-up with me at their own convenience at any time. And those are $125 for half an hour and $225 for a full hour if they want it. They can also do a double booking. So if I have multiple people in the family, they can do 2 half hours back to back. They could do 3 half-hour slots. So it allows them to chunk it down and be as specific as we want. It kind of puts them in control. And they can do it as little as a half hour. Now, they just can't go past 6 months. So assuming that we've spoken within the last 6 months, they can do the 125. Once they go past that, they're really starting over, because these can often be, sometimes someone can wait a year and have a whole new health crisis, and then you wouldn't want them to schedule a follow-up with you based on a relationship you had a year ago based on another set of criteria or another, so it's just really important to set boundaries, that this is an ongoing, support system between the practitioner and the client, and that you're working together, and that I'm educating you and getting you where you need to go. Now, some people get very quick results, and really that's all they need. They need their initial consultation and maybe a follow-up, and that's great. And some other people need a lot more than that. Some people I have to try to divorce. I mean, they don't even want to leave. I have to say, you're doing great, and they're like, no, I have to talk to you next month. I really want, and so that's okay too if they feel they want to just continue to have optimal health, right, and then work towards other health goals, which is great. So, you meet the need of the individual based on what it is they're trying to accomplish. Yeah.
So I guess you're seeing people, is it face-to-face at all, or is it all long distance for you?
It's all long distance now. Yep. Used to be face-to-face, but I can't see people fast enough. So with the face-to-face, I had the hellos and how are you, and, getting people showing up late, and that was fine when I only had a handful of people. But now it isn't, it's every hour. Sometimes I only have maybe 2 or 3 minutes in between sessions, or 15 minutes between sessions, enough time to get up and get a drink. So so to me, in order for me to increase the volume, I had to move everything online, everything to phone. And I don't do the video conferencing mostly just because of frustration, that if people didn't have the right computer or a good connection, you'd spend more time troubleshooting, and I find that frustrating for me and the person getting served. So because there hasn't been a lot of really good options, Skype is something that people used to use, and then they use Zoom, and then there are a lot of companies coming out with other, safer or HIPAA-compliant programs. I just haven't found any of them to be very good or very efficient, and they seem to be inconsistent. And people really like the convenience of the phone,
Sure.
I think more
Keeping
because
that
I'm an educator, it's keeping it really simple. We really dig in. I mean, it's really try to cover a lot of information. And then when I send my reports and my recommendations, I use FullScript. So it used to be HealthWave, now it's FullScript, which is an online supplement dispensary. And that's a very effective way to be able to give people the reporting, which is also HIPAA compliant, and then I can put links and send them. And then if there's other supplements that, FDN practitioners use specifically that you order, you can certainly send those to people. Sometimes I have that instance too, or I'll send them the link to order very specific nutrients that, that we tend to work with. So, but you can still put it in the report as a link and with instructions. And then what happens is they can open that report, they can print it out as a PDF. It's there. It's sort of a holding place too. So it's like having electronic filing because you can pull up the individual in the system. You can see what supplements you had recommended. You can offer discounts. So I don't make any profit on my supplementation. I offer that at wholesale. So what I can get up to 35% off. As a practitioner, and I just put that in the system for my clients. In other words, you can control it. You can give them 10%, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, I think is the highest you can go. So if there's nothing wrong with making money on supplementation or having a markup there, that's certainly a great option for people. I just choose not to. But that gives you the control to be able to do that. And you can do it customized per person. So if a particular client, is a friend or a family member, you can give them a higher discount than maybe you would just your main population of people you work with. So I think to the extent where practitioners can streamline and use these technologies that are really built for the practitioner, and for our field of work is very, very helpful. I think it's also very professional to reduce the amount of exchange and email. And I also think it sets boundaries, delivering the majority of your information via email. Then people feel it's okay to send what we would call, quote unquote, a quick question, which everybody on this call knows is no such thing. What people perceive as a quick question is usually complicated. And so by working within some of these systems of sharing information in a HIPAA-compliant way, you really are discouraging people from asking additional information that maybe they shouldn't or maybe should happen in the context of an appointment. So I don't mind making clarifications, answering simple questions, or clarifying something for somebody that I've already done. Certainly there's a lot of back and forth, but I really encourage people, that I'm working with to set up an appointment so I can give them the attention that it deserves. And, I think that it's important to set those boundaries as a practitioner from the beginning.
Well, it sounds like you've done a great job of leveraging technology, and I can see why in your instance with as many people as you see, you really have to do that. Otherwise, like I said, you couldn't give good service or help enough people. But still, I'll ask you, so the beginning practitioner that doesn't have quite as many clients so far, can they still and should they still leverage technology?
Yes, that's a great question, and I actually was just going to say that because as you were talking a lot, I'm thinking, boy, why is it important for somebody at the beginning? Actually, one of the reasons why I am recommending it is because I think I should have done it sooner than I thought I needed it. The intake queue is $29 a month at the beginning for a single practitioner. I want to say the criteria is like up to 20 clients a month or something like that, like very reasonable. Certainly when I was just starting out, I was lucky I had 5 people to work with. So it was certainly sufficient. $29 a month, but remember it's doing lots of different things. It is the scheduler. It sends out automated reminders. It also is holding the credit card information and processing it through Stripe, which is like a PayPal, right? So it's processing the payment, scheduling it, doing the reminders. People can cancel or change their appointment. It'll also employ a cancellation policy. So if you say that you're going to get charged, $50 if you cancel within 48 hours, the system will do that for you. There's a way to set up the language so it does it. It's managing your calendar. It's doing the booking, and then you can, when you have the intake form, it's managing your intake forms and holding all that data. And then when you do your consultations with your clients, you can click into that form and write notes right within the form under each section. So if there's a section on digestive health or hormone balance, you can click on it and you write your clinical notes there. So it's holding that data, and it's just an unbelievable way to look at the history and calculate it. So I don't think it's a huge expense, even at the beginning. And I think I would have been able to say yes to more people and really spent more time doing outreach. I think I spent too much time in the beginning going back and forth with emails, scheduling, trying to get on the phone with people, doing free consultations, or I shouldn't say that because I actually never did free consultations, but I know that's a practice of doing consultations to engage in a conversation and then book an appointment, and then the person might say, oh, that time doesn't work for me, can I change it? And really, you're just spending a lot of time managing things that technology can do that for us. So I think it really sets a tone up front of professionalism, and I think it is liberating, and I think it's freeing. And I don't think we need these really complex systems. There's a lot of programs out that other practitioners have talked about. I know that people will ask me questions like, do you think I should be doing that, using that software, or Chris Kresser recommends something complex? And I think the answer is no. I don't think we need complex systems. This one is very, very simple. And if you have an intake form, like an FDN form that you love, that you've used for gathering information, you can send that PDF file or that Word document to IntakeQ, and for $5, they will custom create that form for you. And then you could, once that form comes back, completely created at that flat rate price, you can tweak it. You can take questions out, you can move it around, you can edit it, you can add, people can have checklists or bullet points, or you can have multiple choice questions, you can create a grid, you can have, checklist if somebody was just selecting symptoms. It's very customizable and really, really user-friendly. So no advanced technology. It's just as simple as it can possibly get, and yet it meets all of our needs. So I think at the beginning, set these things into motion, get yourself set up that way. And I think FullScript is free. I don't think there's any charge to the practitioner. Of course, the motive for them is that you recommend all the therapeutic supplements that they offer, but they offer everything that most of us are using anyway. All the BioHealth products, all the therapeutic dose probiotics, everything you can think of. So probably the things that you're recommending to your clients are in there. And then, of course, you can offer them at a discounted rate.
Right.
So I think it is really, really important.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for being so detailed on that. People like the details and kind of think through things and figure out what works for what they're doing now. We got about 9 minutes left, so if any of you guys that are on here, I see several of you guys on the switchboard here. If you have a question for Kathleen, please reach out now. Just the last few minutes here. Just dial 1 on the keypad there, and I'll bring you on with questions. So happy to entertain those. So make that call out there for there. In the last few minutes here, Kathleen, any more kind of tips for, I guess maybe people starting out, like business type of things, or as far as getting out there and being seen? Any kind of things that come to mind as far as those categories go?
Yeah, I think it's really important to choose things that you're good at. So if you are a great writer, and you love writing, then there's so many opportunities for you to write for other organizations or other online platforms that have huge, huge volume of users and visitors, 32 million visitors. And, there's so many online magazines. So really spend the time looking to make those kinds of connections and build yourself an editorial calendar where you can, make some submissions. A lot of people will subscribe to Help a Reporter Out. It's called HARO. That's something I've never loved completely. I know other people have used it. It's a good way to occasionally get lucky and grab like a fitness magazine or some of the big ones. But really what it is Help a Reporter Out is a way for reporters at all these national publications will put out a call to action under categories, looking for people to submit writing. So they might be saying we're looking for an expert on fitness, or we're looking for an expert on digestive health and what the relationship is between depression and constipation or whatever it is, and so you can make a submission. And it's free. And so you subscribe to get notified when they're looking for input from experts in a particular field. So writing, if that's something you're really good at, look to do that to get your name out, to bring people back to the website, creating an ebook or creating things that can be shared easily on social media is really important. If you want to get clients, the more effective way to get them is to get out into the public and talk to people. And I used to talk in people's homes, in their living rooms, and have them invite 20 people over, I would attach my computer to their high-def TV, and I would literally do a short, 30-minute presentation in their home and then open it up to Q&A. And I never, ever did one of those and didn't get results. 2 or 3 people almost always wanted to work independently with me. So that's a very effective way because it's very personal, and it's an opportunity for them to really get to know you and to see where you might be able to help them. So speaking in yoga studios or wellness fitness centers, most of those businesses are really looking to support their clients and to get things out there. I think it's just more about building relationships and letting people know what it is that you do and, having them invite you. I mean, you should feel so passionate about your work that people naturally want to just ask you to do something or think of you when somebody is looking for a particular speaker or, large event. But I think it's important to pick something that you're good at so that you're more enthusiastic about going after it, and then you consistently can put yourself out there. And then you have to start. You just have to do one person. And I remember the first time that somebody called me and interviewed me, so to speak, to see if I was a good fit for them. And I was so nervous. I think I almost had cardiac arrest. When I got off the phone, my heart was pounding. I really didn't think I was qualified. I didn't think that I had what it took. I didn't think I knew enough to be able to help this person, but I knew that I wanted to help. Like was overwhelmed with the desire to do the right thing. And I knew that if I didn't have the answers, I'd find them. So I just put myself out there and said that I really wanted to do it. And she ended up hiring me. And I was so excited. And at the time, I think I was probably charging like $75 or something. And I thought, oh my God, it's so expensive. And how could I dare charge that much? And it took such courage for me to just do it. And I literally transformed her life. And she's still a client today. And so it's amazing that when you have this community, with FDN, there are other practitioners you can call on. You don't have to have all the answers. Even for complex cases, you can look to the advisors and to read and to the team and to other practitioners, other FDN graduates, and collaborate with them. I do case studies specifically for that reason, so that other practitioners who aren't necessarily specialized in a particular area, or they get a complex case that they feel stuck on, they can schedule a case study with me, and we can dig into that information, and I can teach them how to look at it in another perspective, and then they deliver that to their client. So it's different than referring them to me and then me interacting with the client. If I'm working with the practitioner, I'm really teaching them, and so then they're getting better at their work, and they're really the superstar in the eyes of their client, So it's really about supporting each other. So I really strongly encourage people to collaborate with other practitioners and and get good at what you do, by getting uncomfortable and taking on things that maybe you don't really quite feel ready for, because from there it's somebody else, and then it's somebody else, and before you know it, you have a really good reputation.
Right. So do it when you're afraid. It's okay. Push through it.
It's okay.
Learn, go to that next level. Yeah, you're going to be okay. You're going to get there.
Right.
Well, hey, we got 3 minutes left.
Yeah, because you're not going to make recommendations. Yeah, you're not going to make recommendations that put anybody in jeopardy. I mean, I think it's really about being thoughtful and careful, but I think the message there is to take that leap of faith and then know that if you get stuck, you have a community to turn to,
yes.
and so you can figure it out. I think that's really important.
Yep, exactly right.
Do you have any brave souls asking questions?
We do have one, so we got a few minutes left to see if we can get them in here. So,
okay.
702 area code. What's your name? What's your question?
Hi, Brandon. Hi, Kathleen. This is Sean Merritt calling from California. Appreciate your time, and I know it's valuable to you and your family, so thank you. Quick question:
Sean?
If you can remind or reaffirm which sources you're utilizing for "quote unquote" food as medicine, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So the difference with the way that I look at things, I don't take a single source. So I speak at a lot of soil conferences, so work directly with the farmers, looking specifically at soil biology and specifically at people who teach that aspect of health. So I spoke at Krippal at the end of December, and I was there with, 30 other practitioners and scientists and organic farmers and biologists, and learning from them and from each other. So I think it's really critical to go out of your scope of practice and to collaborate with other practitioners who have a specialty in an area of interest. Same thing with studying herbs and plants. It's one thing to look at the books and to look at the research and to pull up research, but it's another thing to go to somebody who really studies it and then try to make those connections back to the disease patterns. So the way that my mind works is that I generally look at the disease and I will study the pathology of the disease, the anatomy of the disease, look at the biochemistry, study that, and then look for what supports that mechanism of the body, and then what is it in nature that already provides that. So I know it's a complex way of looking at things, but that's the way I get to my answer, rather than saying, I'm just going to look at foods. The simple example of that is if somebody's having digestive distress, or they need a lot of enzyme support. They're not breaking down any of their foods. They're not breaking down proteins. Well, we know that pancreatic enzymes or digestive enzymes are made from bromine in pineapple and papaya, or papain in papaya. And so I would look to the natural source. I would say, when can these foods be eaten, and when are those enzymes used, and how effective are they? What's the timing of that, and then with what foods would that help support? Or if I'm looking at if a particular disease pattern improves when a medical doctor gives a prokinetic stimulant, like a digestive repair, I would say, what is it in nature that can replicate that? Like in Ayurvedic, they use the triphala, which is the combination of 3 herbs, and that's used for the same reasons that a lot of medications are used in terms of repairing full digestive function. So I don't think I could point anybody to a single source of where to get that information, although there are some really amazing books. My library is quite large, of looking at, healing remedies and certain components of food. And certainly if you want to reach out to me too, I can give people a list of some of my favorite textbooks or, things like that. And I'm certainly happy to do that. My bookshelf is not directly in front of me. But I would encourage people to really connect with others and to rethink about how you gather information, instead of a single source, but to try to fully understand how everything is connected. So I don't know if that answers Sean's question in a thorough way, but Sean can send me an email too, and I'm happy to share more.
Yeah. Yep. Great. Awesome. Well, Kathleen, I know you've got a new book, I think a re-release of a book coming out, and then a new book coming out, and also the Secret Ingredients movie, and you've just said you're, if anyone has a quick question, welcome to help them out there. So you guys get in touch with Kathleen there if you've got a quick question. Otherwise, jump on her website there and see what she has going on. So many different good things, and just appreciate you being part of the family, Kathleen, and all the work that you're doing. You represent us well, and the whole group of us in this industry, what we're doing. So thanks for being on and sharing today.
Thank you for having me, Brandon. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody joining us today, and I really look forward to connecting with everybody in the years to come.
Sounds awesome. All right. Have a good weekend. And Kathleen, thanks again.
All right, Brandon. Take care.